So recording started, fabulous. So welcome to Bullet Journaling Basics. I'm Deanna Camp. I am an accessible technology specialist in the Center for Accessibility Resources at LB. The first thing I need everybody to do, if you haven't already done so, is check in. This is a new process that we're kind of starting to test out, so things might not work completely. If it does, please don't worry about it. Just send me a quick message or an email saying, hey, I tried to do this and it wouldn't let me, or something went wrong, or anything like that. Just keep me updated, especially if you want to be in the drawing to win the journal. So there are two different ways that you can check in to this event. The first one, if you have LB Live, if you open the app in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little symbol that looks kind of like a square with the corners and then a line through it. Just click on that and then scan the QR code that's on the screen, and that'll check you in. If you don't have LB Live, that's totally not a problem. You can just click on the link that I've put in the chat. I'll do this again. The link in the chat, and you can just manually input your information and check in that way. All right. So now that that part is taken care of, what is a bullet journal? That's the biggest question, right? So the original bullet journal, which is also called a bujo for short, the model was created by a fellow named Ryder Carroll. And according to the website bulletjournal.com, a bujo is best described as a mindfulness practice disguised as a productivity system. So it's basically designed to help you organize your what while you remain mindful of your why. So I have found that for me and students that I've worked with, if they're particularly busy and they have a lot of things going on, being able to kind of brain dump into a bullet journal is really helpful and helps prioritize and organize everything that needs done. So a bullet journal is primarily rapid logging. So this is a little bit different than kind of your typical note-taking strategies. So rapid logging is used to produce less notes, essentially, but still get all of the important information. All right, so you're able to catch all of that important stuff with just a bulleted list rather than a lot of text notes. So in the image on here, you can see that on the left-hand side of this example, that's like the traditional note-taking style, where there's a lot of text, a lot of information, there's checkboxes and all of that stuff. But then on the right-hand side is the example of rapid logging, which is just a lot of bullets. And that's kind of the point of what a bullet journal is. That's the basic kind of, this is what you do. So a bujo is modular. So each module is called a collection, and it works to organize all of the related information for that collection. All right. With the basic bujo model, there are 4 core collections. These include the index, the future log, the monthly log, and the daily log. And we'll go through all of those today. You can also create custom collections to keep track of various things. And I'll go through some ideas on what to do with custom collections as well. So the first collection is the index. This is in the front of your notebook, right? And you just kind of title it index, and then it has like a list of all of the different collections that you have within your bullet journal. And then you can put the page numbers right next to those. So you can have either consecutive spreads of pages, or they can be recurring themes throughout your notebook, right? So for example, on this list, drawings, it's on pages 27 through 29. And then pages 32 and 36, right? So this is really great because you can just go to the next open page of your journal and do what you need to do, write that page in the index, and then look at it for reference when you need to find something again. Next is the future log. So the future log is where you would store dated entries that occur outside of the month that you're currently in. So it's a good way to kind of look ahead at what your schedule is kind of going to look like. And this is like the really big stuff usually. And then each month you can look at your future log and put what's needed for that month into your monthly log. And that is called migrating. So the monthly log usually has two different pages to it. It's got the calendar page and it has a task page. And Amanda just put a comment in the chat. She said, I think not putting in an index has hurt this process for me in the past. Same here. I was like, I don't need an index. That's silly. I'm not going to do that. And then I get confused about where everything is at. And I have to like search through it page by page to try to find what I'm looking for. So I definitely recommend doing the index. It does feel like a waste of time at first, but it is really, really helpful. So for the monthly log, we have got the calendar page and the task page. So the calendar page is kind of a reference of just an overall view of the month, when big events are happening, and that kind of stuff. The task page is kind of what I call a brain dump. So it's just putting down, what are your priorities this month? What things did I have on my list last month that I didn't get done? And putting them all just on there so that you have this list of things. I'll go ahead and mute everybody for you, Tricia. There, I think we're good now. Next is the daily log. So the daily log is the one that you're going to use the most often. All right. So this is just the day-to-day use kind of stuff. And as the topic, we usually will put like the date and the day. This is where you're really going to be rapid logging tasks, events, notes, any of that kind of stuff, just as it comes up throughout the day. All right. If you don't fill a page, you can see like on this example, they got like halfway through the page for one day. So they just started the next day right on the same page. This is, like I said, a very basic kind of way to do this. There are a lot of very creative and very artsy kinds of pages and ways that people organize their things. You don't have to be artsy to keep a bullet journal. You can be artsy in your bullet journal if you want to, and I'm going to show you some examples of that, but it's really not necessary. The goal of it is to keep you organized and productive. I also find it, for me personally, I'm a very artsy crafty person, and that's kind of a self-care item for me. So I like to make my bullet journal very crafty and pretty, just because it kind of forces me to do that little bit of self-care. So the custom collections, I have so much fun with the custom collections, it's not even funny. But here's a few ideas of different custom collections that I have seen or that folks have done. So the great thing about a bullet journal is that you can morph it into whatever you need it to be. All right, so it's super customizable. A lot of folks do like food logs, shopping lists, fitness trackers, a diary if you want to each day after your daily log, write like a little diary entry on that page about the day. You can totally do that. A lot of people use them as sketchbooks as well. If there are certain books or something like that that you want to read and you want to like organize all of that, you can create a reading list. Something that I've done in the past is the mood tracker. For me personally, I had dealt with depression for many, many years of my life. And I've found that kind of keeping that mood tracker and figuring out what I did during that day or what events happened or occurred and comparing that to what my mood was for that day or around that time really helped me narrow down kind of what's causing those shifts in my mood. And then from there, I was able to address, how do I fix that? So if you struggle with any mental health issues, I feel like a mood tracker is a great way to kind of address that and figure out what changes you can make to kind of improve your mental health. So we saw a whole bunch of symbols on all of these pages. They all mean certain things. So there are bullets, which are kind of like your three basic bullets, right? So you've got the closed dot, which are usually tasks. So these are things that you have to do, all right? Notes is usually a dashed bullet. And these are things that you don't want to forget. Events is an open circular bullet. And these are just noteworthy moments in time. So these are things that you can track either before they occur so that you can remind yourself that it's going to happen, Or it could be something that happened and you're like, ooh, I want to mark that down. You can do that as well. Within the tasks, there are four additional ways that it can be denoted as a different sort of task. Okay. So the first is the incomplete task, which is just the basic bullet. All right. If you do an X over that bullet, that means you've completed that task. It's done. You're good to go. Next is the greater than symbol, which means you've migrated that into a different collection of your Bujo. All right. And then if it's a less than, that means that you have put that back into the future log. It's going to happen at a future date. Right? Then there's also signifiers that you can use. A little star is usually something that denotes high priority. Okay. An exclamation point next to that is something that's inspirational, something that gave you an idea or something along those lines. So if we go back real quick to some of these, you can see on this example how it has all of those different kinds of bullets as well as those signifiers. That's kind of how that works out. I do want to note that you don't have to use these symbols. It definitely helps me with my anxiety, Kelly. Absolutely helpful with that. It gives me a good idea of what to expect, and so there's no surprises usually. But with these symbols, you can totally use different ones. If there are other symbols that make more sense to you, go with it. All right. It's supposed to be helpful for you. So if these ones aren't helpful, find something that is. It's totally not a big deal. That's part of the customization of a Bujo that I love so much. So usually what I do instead of doing the bullets, I am definitely a checkbox person. I don't know why, but I just prefer that. It works better with my brain. So I usually for tasks, I'll have a checkbox. And then if it's incomplete, that checkbox is empty. If it's complete, I fill it in green. If I migrated it, then I'll put a little arrow in that checkbox and that kind of stuff. So I have a totally different system myself that I use. I noted that I use a green pen to fill in the checkboxes when I've done something. I'm big on color coding. I like all of my different things to be color coded. So if I've got work items, I have that one color. Personal items, I have another color. When I was in school, that had a totally different color. And if I had multiple classes, then each class was a different color. That just helps me. I'm a very color kind of person. So that's something that you could do. If that feels like it's too much, don't do it. It's totally fine. The ultimate goal is to become more mindful of what you're doing, okay? How you're spending your time, how can you be more productive, right? So whatever you can do that will assist with that, that is the goal. So I've got some examples. These are a couple of my monthly like cover pages, if you will. And as I said, I like to get a little artsy with it. So for November of last year, November is my birth month. So I made this one zebra print because that's one of my favorite prints. So for the entire month of November, each page had some zebra print on it somewhere. For December, I did a little wreath, a little holly wreath, because I thought that was cute. So I just like to have fun with it and do little themes for each month and just be a little crafty and creative. This is one of the mood trackers that I did once. I had like a bee/honeycomb theme for March. And so on my monthly page, I had my little drawing of my bee and my little bee happy quote with an overview of the month layout. And then for my mood tracking, I just have all of these different little honeycomb shapes and then a little key at the bottom. And I colored them in different ways to denote different moods. So that's how I did my mood tracking. You totally don't have to do it this way. Like I said, this is like one of those super creative artsy ones. You can definitely do something much more simple. This one was my course overview when I was in grad school. I did this with each class that I had. And I basically, most of my classes were like 6 weeks. And so I would just create a calendar on one page and have different symbols that denoted different assignments that I had to do on different days. And so that's kind of how I did it. And then whenever I completed something, I filled it in. or did a little check mark or something like that, something to denote, hey, I did this, it's done. And then on the other page here, I just kind of had like some overviews and guidelines of all of the different assignments that I had for that course. So for like the different forum discussions that I had, I put like a 30 here, meaning that it was 30 points out of all of the points in the class. And then I just did, okay, I need to have my initial response by this date. I need to have 4 responses to others by this date. And then what weeks I had them in, because they weren't every week. And then, so my literature review here, that was worth 50 points. When it was due, what I had to do, all those kinds of guidelines and stuff. So it had to be an APA with 10 sources, 12 pages. So I just kind of did that, and that helped me really keep track of what I was doing in my classes and where I was, what I had coming up, all of that kind of stuff. Another thing that I did was on the very edge of the page, I put this little strip of washi tape and just kind of folded it over the edge of the page. And that made that particular page really, really easy for me to find when I needed it, because it was the one red stripe down in my book. So I would just turn to that page when I needed it. So that's one thing that I've done that I found really helpful, along with the index, is to just put a little bit of colored tape on there. Do I carry my bullet journal with me everywhere? Yes, I do, because I never know exactly when I'm going to need it or when I'm going to hear something that I need to write down. So with work, it happens frequently because, I mean, I'm at work, so I'm constantly getting tasks, or there's constantly notes that I have to write down, all of that kind of stuff. I also take it with me to doctor's appointments, so that if I'm making another appointment, I can put that in my future log. If there's anything regarding my health that I need to pay attention to or anything like that, I can put that in my notes. So yes, I take it everywhere with me. It's just in my purse all the time. So I did create a bullet journal website page on my Technology Tools for Success website that I created. So this is me shamelessly plugging my my website that I made, and I'll put the link to that in the chat. So this website not only has the Bujo page now, but it has a ton of other information and links to different apps or tools that could be beneficial for students, as well as staff and faculty at LB. Most of them are free. A few of them are just low cost. So I've got tools in there for writing, reading, organizing, note-taking, self-care, mental well-being, all kinds of stuff. So I definitely encourage you all to go and check that out. I did create that, Kelly, yes. I spent a lot of time going through and finding different apps and things like that, testing them out to see what I liked, what would work for different learning styles, all of that kind of stuff, and then just put them all into this website as a way to present it to others. So I organize it as best as I can, so hopefully things make sense. You will notice that there are some things that show up in multiple categories, especially in the reading and writing. And that's just because there are some tools that are focused on both reading and writing, not just one or the other. So that's why there's some cross-posting going on. All right. And that's it. I went through all of that so much faster than I thought I was going to, you all. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up for anybody to ask questions or anything like that.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Kelly.
I just wanted to say this is, I think this is the first time going back to school that I've gotten assistance. Like I suffer from anxiety, depression. I know a lot of people do. I'm not trying to single myself out. What I want to say is that it's amazing how much this helps, because oftentimes I would find I would just go it alone and just struggle through it. But this is incredible. I just want to say this is great. And I don't have a question. I'll probably have one later on, but I'm just want to say this is great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it was actually kind of funny the way I found out about bullet journaling. as I mentioned before, I dealt with depression and anxiety, some PTSD issues for many, many years. Um, and for the longest time, that was kind of what I did is I just went it alone. And I would have those good stretches of time where everything was great and I was staying on top of things, but then I would have these dips where it's just I could not keep track of anything that I was doing. I couldn't remember what was going on. Um, and during one of those good times, I was like, I've got to figure out some way to try to combat this. Like, how do I still stay on top of everything when I'm in those low points? So I started doing some research when I was in one of my good phases, and just happened upon bullet journaling. And I said, oh my God, I love this. I need to try this. And so I started off when I was in good space. And then just the hardest part is continuing to do it when you're in that negative space. But I found that if I do, it's really easy. It's a lot easier to get through those difficult times. So that's been my personal experience. So hopefully it's something that can help others who struggle with the same things.
Deanna, that's something that I struggle with personally is I will get a great system going and I will use it and it'll really help me while I'm in those good places and then I stop.
Yeah.
And I just can't pick it back up. Do you have any tips for that?
For me, my biggest helpful thing that I've found is having somebody hold me accountable for that. So for me, that's Rob.
Yeah.
He has always been really great about on the weekends. Deanna, did you do your bullet journal? No, you need to do your bullet journal. I know. So I would go and do it. So he's been my biggest supporter with that kind of stuff. I am happy to be a supporter. So when Rob gives me my reminders, I am more than happy to email or text reminders to others. I could have just like a recurring email that goes out to certain people saying, hey, this is your reminder to do your bullet journal this week. Whatever works. But I'm totally willing to be that person if folks don't have somebody that could do that for them.
And do you mainly do it once, like all the big stuff one time a week, and then you just add
That's
little
what I
notes?
usually do. Yeah, that's what I usually do. Just because for me, it's with everything else going on in my life, there's no way that I can sit down every single day and migrate things from all over the place. I just can't do it. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the spoons for that. Right. So I found that planning my week out is helpful for me. So I actually each weekend will go through but again, I'm really artsy craftsy with my stuff. So I have like certain layouts that I do for every day, where I track all kinds of different things. And that works better for me. If you're wanting to do something just kind of like the very basic style that we went over today, you might not need to do that as much. So it just kind of depends. We did have a question in the chat. Give me 1 second. I noticed you used grid-lined pages rather than usual lined pages. Is this a preference or recommended for bullet journals? This is a preference. You can use lined pages, you can use dotted pages, you can use gridded. It totally doesn't matter. For me, I really like to use the dotted pages. And that just gives me more freedom to be creative with my layouts and that kind of stuff. If you are just going to do the very kind of basic bullet journaling style like this, lined is totally fine. It will absolutely give you an excuse to buy more gel pens, Catherine. I'm not going to lie, that's my favorite part of this is I have all the pens. All the different colors and everything. It's fabulous. And washi tape. I am a washi tape lover as well. Any other questions or comments?
What are some of the more unusual or maybe the collections that you might not think of that you've seen in a bullet journal?
Man, there's so many. There's like anything in your life you could bullet journal. for me, I've seen some really fabulous ones revolving around children and their schedules and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Since I only have one, it's not as difficult for me to keep track of all the kids. But for those who have multiple kids, I could definitely see something like that being super beneficial. So I definitely suggest, if you do have many kids, and that's something that you would like to delve into a little bit, definitely do some searching on those. There's some really interesting ones out there. Joanne, I agree. I love ribbon. I do use tabs, but again, like I said, I really like the washi tape on the edge of the page. That's kind of my favorite way to do it. And then I also have like different colors or designs of washi tape that I use for different subjects. So I kind of organize it in that way too. Like I said, I love to color code. So any way that I can code something in a certain way, I'm doing it. So I definitely use washi tape for that.
Nice.
All right. Well, yay, Amanda, you do it.
I'm excited too. I've never heard of a bullet journal. I think this is going to be helpful for me for a lot of stuff.
Good. I'm so glad. Yeah, I have found it to be helpful for more things than I initially anticipated. Because at first I thought, okay, well, I've got like, when I started it, I had like 3 different part-time jobs. So trying to keep track of what I was doing for each part-time job was kind of my initial goal.
Oh yeah, I have no idea what that's like.
I know, right? So that was what I started it for initially. And then as I was researching it and looking at other collections and stuff that folks have done, I was like, holy crow, there's so much that I could do with this that would be beneficial for me. Not just making sure I keep track of all of the different tasks I have to do for each job, but more of that self-care kind of stuff as well. And so that for me just kind of sealed the deal. Joanne had a question in the chat. Have you ever heard of planner conventions? Lots of bullet journal people go to these, but COVID has shut down most of the conventions. They all gather, bring their planners and journals and share ideas. I have never heard of a convention for that. I love it. For some people, I feel like that would be really, really beneficial. To be frank, I am not one of those people. I am an introvert, crazy introvert. I don't like peopling as all that much. I can totally do it and I get along with people. That's not the problem. I just prefer to kind of do my own little thing. And so I'm also very critical of myself too. So when I see other people's journals or planners, I am like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And it's so pretty. Why isn't mine that pretty? And then I get into my head. And that's not the purpose of it for me. You know what I mean? So doing like a convention like that would just, it would make me spin. Thank you, Joanne. I appreciate it. All right. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, I will just ask that folks please make sure that you go ahead and do the checkout process for me. Again, either way is totally fine. And then once I have all of those names of everybody who checked in and out, then I can go through and complete the drawing. We have 3 of these fabulous leadership journals to give away. These are lined journals and they come with a pen. They're pretty spiffy. I have one and I kind of love it, to be honest with you. But they say they have that definition of leadership. And then on the very bottom part, it says student leadership 2020/2021. They're really beautiful, well-made journals. So if you're interested in that, definitely do the check-in, check-out. There may also be some extra goodies included as well. So, but other than that, that is all I have for you folks today. So I will hang out for any last minute questions or comments or anything like that. But other than that, that's all I had to share with y'all.
Thank you, Deanna. It was very informative.
Thank you, Dio. That was
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Just want to say hi, Diana. Thank you. Sorry for being late.
No
And
worries.
anyway, so this is a great resource. I'm going to look through the website and kind of see. I do a lot of journaling and have a lot of to-do lists. So I'd be curious the different styles.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to re-put the link for the Technology Tools for Success website in the chat.
Oh, great.
And I have an entire page that has all of this information that I put on that website. So you can totally go back through and look at all of that stuff. I also did record the session.
Oh, okay, great.
So I will have a recording available as well. I think I'm going to get that to Rob, and Rob's going to do something about disseminating that. So keep your eyes
Oh,
open
wonderful.
there.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's okay, Abby. It's totally just a test. So if it's not letting you check out, don't stress it. You'll still be involved in the drawing. I'll make sure that I get all the names.
Okay, thank you so much. I
No
really
problem.
appreciate this.
Thank you for doing this.
Yep. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the sunshine.
You too, Beth. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for doing this. It was great.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. No worries, Meredith. No problem, Rebecca. I'll make sure I get you on the list. Absolutely. Awesome, Dana. I'm glad it worked for some people. I wonder why it didn't for others. This is going to be an interesting thing to check into.
It just took a moment to load. I don't know why, but I just let
Odd.
it sit and then it loaded. Thank you. Hey, I've never done any journaling, but I was kind of interested in it, but it looks a little complicated. So
It does at first. Once you
small.
get it, it's not that bad. It's just kind of the initial setup with the index and that kind of stuff. I am forgetful about adding things to my index when I add them to my journal. So that's one of my big problems. But once you get the hang of it, it's really not super complicated.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to give it a try.
Awesome.
So thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, Dana. I appreciate it. I miss your face.
Hey, I can turn on my video.
I so miss being able to like walk around on campus and say hi to everybody. You know what I mean?
I know.
Yeah.
I miss that too. You know, maybe September.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. I guess I don't have too much else to say. So back to the grind.
All righty. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Mm.
Hi to Rob and Mickey.
I will tell them.
Right? Bye.
Bye.